Welcome to Fraction of a Teacher, the podcast where two trainee maths teachers navigate the wild world of teaching, equations, and everything in between. I'm Francis.
And I'm Jen. Join us as we reflect, share stories, and have a laugh about life in the classroom. Whether you're thinking about starting a career in education, a trainee teacher in the thick of it all, or just curious about what it takes to shape young minds, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back. It's Jen and Francis. Hey buddy, how are you?
It's good. It's kind of exciting because this is the last week of term. We're going to put this out, I think, pretty much the second last day of term. So it's really fun. The school's beginning to feel a little bit ready for holiday in a really positive way. So no, it's good, Jen.
I know. Can you believe it? I'm looking forward to half term to be able to focus on paddleboarding. The weather has taken a beautiful turn, can we just say?
It is amazing. It's awesome, but I've really noticed how lovely weather yesterday. I did get a little bit sunburnt going out boating. That's how hot it was. And then today it was hot in school, and I wear a suit generally, and I was like seriously hot. And I find when I'm teaching, I get really warm because you're at the front, you're moving around, you're thinking on your feet, literally. Yeah, it's hot. And I'm just thinking, if this is late March and it's this hot, it's going to be really crazy hot come kind of June time in school.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting.
Definitely. Perfect. And actually, thank you to everyone for being so great. And we had some lovely comments from people just saying, oh, we really missed you guys last week, but we're so looking forward to the next one. So, and that was really, that people were understanding with us, and it was lovely. Did you get some messages as well, Francis?
Thank you for that. And actually, with that, linking to that, it was really fun when we were looking with Sophia at kind of listener numbers. We've got a really great kind of core of listeners who are kind of regularly tuning in, which is great. Yes, it's fun to hear back from some of those people and what they'd like to see us do. So we're looking forward to a bit of a break and then final term. No, it's a really exciting stage.
It is. Shall we dive into today's topic? Because I'm really excited to talk about today. I think it's going to start with airing a little bit of frustration in schools, but actually it's going to come out to be a really positive conversation. I can feel it already. It's in my bones. My cup is all the way full, even though I'm a little bit ill. So I'm so sorry if it's a little bit weird today. I'm full of cold, which definitely means the end of term is coming.
Definitely. No, I'm really looking forward to this. So I think you had a bit of a starter question for us. Over to you.
Yes, I did. My question to you is, what is the one item in your teacher's bag or your pockets that you would go into full panic mode if you forgot?
So I'm sure I should say something like, I've got some, the seating plan early in the school placement when you're still learning names, that's pretty important. Having a pen and like a whiteboard pen and like the right color of pen for the way your school does marking. Having the pen that writes on the special screens, that's all kind of important. Having your lesson plan is handy. But for me, it's all about the fact that by mid-morning, if I don't have a coffee, it doesn't often end up being a great day. So I reckon I could probably do a half decent job without the pens and stuff, so long as I had a coffee. So for me, when I was thinking about coming into teaching, I went to a kind of Now Teach kind of dial-in event, and somebody said, yeah, one of the biggest changes moving into teaching from my previous job is you can't just stop and get a coffee when you like. And I was like, am I prepared to go into a career where I can't just stop and have a coffee when I like? But I thought it must be possible. But I find in my current school placement, it takes me ages to go and get the kettle filled up, get the kettle boiled, make a coffee and things. So I take in a thermos of coffee, and then when I get like literally 2 or 3 minutes, I can quickly pour some of the thermos into a mug, quickly drink a bit of coffee and get going. So that's it. It's all about the coffee. I expect you expecting something loads better and more serious.
No, I can relate. I've just bought a coffee machine for the new house that we're moving into because I love coffee so much. So I relate to that too. But mine was a little bit more academic than yours.
As always. Go on. What could you not teach without?
I say it's academic. I could not teach without my planner in my hand. My planner has everything in it, and obviously it's a little bit of a bullet journal style planner has what I'm doing each session, who is detentions with me, where I'm going next. So even in my downtime, it helps me plan what I'm going to do if I'm planning sessions or doing an assignment or observing somebody. Without that planner, I feel very, very lost because I struggle with too much free time. So I plan every hour of my life in school to make sure that I'm staying focused, you being really productive, using that time to the best of my ability so that when I do get to go home, I can relax because I've done everything in my school day. So my
Yeah.
planner is my best friend, and I have forgot it once, and I felt, the panic mode.
Naked.
Yeah, I did. I'll tell you what, my hair was up. A lot of my students know that I only put my hair up if I'm stressed. My hair was up. I was going everywhere. I couldn't remember if it was week A or week B. It was not a good day in the office.
No, you're right. There's definitely quite a bit of work admin to keep on top of. Yeah,
Well,
yeah, you need
but
some
even like
guys.
who's done my homework, or so even in that I'll have like all of my assessment scores in the back of it as well. So so I can know where they're going. And also like a bit like you, if I've not, I'll call on every single person throughout the week, and I kind of mark that in my planner who I've called and not called on. So it's a way of tracking to make sure that I'm kind of being
Wow,
including
you've got a
everybody.
really awesome planner.
Takes a
But
lot.
no, it's I think, and it's been quite fun actually. I didn't really have a planner like that in my last school placement, and I got given one at the start of this one, and it has made a difference. It's made me more efficient, so I can identify with that.
And I think something that people don't know about us is that we have weekly targets through our weekly mentor meetings. The top of every day of my planner is my weekly targets for the week. So I constantly have those in the front of my mind when I go to every lesson so that I'm always working on them as well. So I didn't really realize how target orientated this PGCE course would be. And I'm not opposed to that. I'm a self-driven and, wanting to always get better. But I need to have those in my mind because I think the school day is so busy. It's really helpful to have those things like to hand 24/7.
Yeah, oh, definitely. You've got to be, because there is a lot to think about, and I think that the targets as well is it's tricky to try and work on everything all the time. I found you've got to really focus, and those targets are good because it stops you trying to make everything better all the time. Right? What are the three things I'm going to really focus on this week and make solid progress on? Definitely.
Yeah. This then leads into something that we're talking about today. Today we're talking about teaching on the move because in your PGCE year, across both placements, we've had to move from classroom to classroom based on whose classroom we're taking over, including our tutor times. My tutor time has been on the other side of the school, so from lesson 1 to lesson 2, we might be making a 3-minute walk. For instance, I've not seen the schools you're in, but I'm assuming it's quite similar as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and in my current school, when the bell goes, that's the end of the current lesson, but it's also the start of the next lesson. So there's a sort of 5-minute grace period for that bell going to move classrooms for pupils. But I've found for me in my routines, I don't like it when when the pupils are in the classroom before I get there. I feel like it just sets up the wrong start to the lesson. There's potentially kind of a bit of chaos from the last class. Pupils not got them all there. You're not able to do that kind of greeting at the door. You're not able to enforce kind of basic uniform standards and so on. So for me, you feel on the back foot immediately if you get there late. Pupils may well be arriving already, and this does happen when you've got 2 lessons, one finishing straight into the next in different classrooms. But it's just something that I suppose I've maybe got better at managing and being on top of my administration and bringing the right things to the right classroom and knowing little tricks. Like one of the teachers I work with is brilliant. He'll put up the do now slide and freeze it on the screen. I emailed it to him before he puts it up so that when the pupils come in, I've got the do now on the screen so I can log on in the background whilst they're already working through the do now that he's put on the screen. And that little thing allows the pupils to start learning, say, 3 minutes earlier and just buys me a little bit of time. So yeah, it's little bits like that. And did you have to carry around stuff? Do you end up with a whole lot of stuff you have to sort of take with you from one place to another, or?
Yeah, more so in my first school than my second school. So in my first school, I had to connect my laptop to every classroom I went into. So I had my laptop with me, plus any handouts or worksheets I was making, plus my board pens, because I could never find a board pen that worked, which was such a little, like, a minute frustration. But yeah, so, and then obviously my feedback book would be coming with me as well. So I've got a little feedback book, which is a notebook that I get all the teachers to write in so that I have all my feedback in one place.
Yep, I like that.
And that was really hard to do because my then laptop would connect to some rooms, but other rooms, but they would need a different connection. So some was HDMI, some was a SCARP lead. I mean, you can already see where when you have a back-to-back lesson, I always felt on the back foot. I never felt ahead or
Yep.
ready. And for somebody who is, I would say, a perfectionist or likes to achieve, that was a really steep learning curve for me. Second school is different because they all have smart whiteboards, so it's a lot easier because it can literally be on the board by the time I get there, and the teacher's normally logged in. But I'm still carrying my laptop with me, my planner, my
Obviously.
planner with me. Obviously, a whiteboard pen is always in my pocket at all times, if not two. It's almost like
I've
a comfort blanket to have in my pocket.
well, I've got all those, and then I've also, if I don't take a laptop, I've got my own sort of mini whiteboards and pens and wipes because not every classroom's got them. So I turn up with these kind of bags of mini whiteboards and then dish those out and make sure I get all the pens back. They have a habit of disappearing. So yeah, it's fun, but you just turn up. There's nothing worse than turning up late for a lesson, having to ask the kids to get out your way so you can get in there with a whole bundle of stuff under your arm, and only to find that there's no space left on the desk to put anything. And I'm sure I will be like that one day when I've got my own classroom. Yeah, I think I think it can be kind of stressful when you get in and you realise that there's just administration. Yeah, the teacher's room, it's their room, and they've left a whole lot of bits of paperwork over the desk, but it can be a little crazy.
Oh, don't forget the coffee in your hand as well, Francis.
So I don't turn up to lessons with the coffee. I don't know what it is. I don't. Maybe you could, but I just don't feel ready to sit around in a lesson drinking coffee. So I haven't yet. But I drink a lot of water, so I'll generally get through best part of a litre of water probably during a lesson. So I do need a water bottle, and I need to top that up en route from one lesson to another. And again, that links to just I think you burn a lot of energy when you're stood up. Teaching and thinking hard. But I think I've got all of that. Sounds a little bit stressful, but actually I think over the sort of two placements you get better and you become more efficient. You find little systems, you know which rooms are tricky in which ways, and you know how to get very efficient at like getting in, setting up, getting all the whiteboards out, using kids to help a little bit. And the other thing I've been working on recently was a really conscious effort. I used to go in, focus on the IT, getting the IT set up, and then doing the register. Then I would get out and about around the class and circulate and check how they're getting on with a do now. And I had some really useful feedback from one of the teachers I was teaching for, and he said actually you got to get out first. I now pretty much come in, get the pupils set down, work on the do now. I circulate, check everyone's getting on with it, got a pen, got books open actually, or mini whiteboards actually actively working. Then I go over and log in, take the register, and then I circulate again, check how they're getting on. So that circulate, register, circulate has really helped me. So it's just a little change I've recently made.
I like that. So actually, just that little change of, I guess, routine in your transitions between classes, has it made you feel a little bit more in control?
Yeah, I think what it does is it allows me, by the time I'm then doing the register and focus at the desk at the front, I'm confident that everyone is working, or I know why they're not. And you've got to, because there's always one or two kids who haven't got a pen, a couple of people who are just very slow to get things out. There's probably reasons why, or they're late from the last lesson. So I think having gone around and by that point having kind of looked every people in the eye, said welcome them into the classroom, got them to tuck their shirt in, put the blazer on. So I think there's an element of that setting up the room and getting that kind of calm and being able to just, I think as you circulate, people tend to be a bit quieter when you come near because they realise they're meant to be working, not chatting. So I think it's a bit about that. I suppose it's that crossover between the kind of physical space and the routines and getting that to flow.
It's so strange, isn't it? Because I feel like without really realizing it, I've had an insight into so many teachers because I've worked in their classroom, and it's a really personal area is a teacher's desk because it's really revealing about, do they eat at their desk? Does that make I'm not pinpointing any teachers out, but the cleanliness and the organization. My current mentor is the most organized woman in the world, and I adore her for it because I'm learning so much. And I think it's wonderful because that's how I aspire to be. But I've been to some desks which are so messy that I feel like I'm just adding to that chaos. Like I'm the corner of my chaos, and I'm like, this is really tricky because it feels like a rite of passage that you've moved from room to room to room because every teacher has done it when they were a PGCE student.
Yep.
But I don't think it ever becomes less uncomfortable because you know it's not your classroom and you try and be as mindful as possible and it's not how you would have things necessarily laid out. But I
Yeah,
appreciate all of my teachers doing me a huge favor and mentoring me or letting me into their classroom and letting me into their personal space.
yeah, I can see you can see it from both sides, can't you? And I think, yeah, having people come in like us and just dump your stuff on top of all their desks, but actually, to them it will be perfectly ordered because that's the way they've got a system, and we just don't understand the system. But it's funny how you develop a bit of a preference. Like, I know the room I'm going to be teaching, and I know the things that annoy me about the way that room's laid out, or the way that the desk is used, or just the way the IT's set up differently. So it's funny how those little things you pick up on, and it does just get easier once you know those and you can work around them. I thought, wow, if this was my room, I'd have done it differently. But obviously, it was someone else's room, and it worked for them. But I mean, that's the bit that I kind of get really excited about when I look ahead and think, how cool is it going to be when you get your own classroom? Like, I can't quite imagine it. It just sounds too good to be true, the idea of having your own classroom. I mean, what are your kind of key, like, someone says, hey, Jem, this is your classroom. What are you thinking? How are you going to go about setting up Jen's classroom?
A cage for Taylor in the corner. No, joking.
She'd love it. He'd love it.
He would love it. I don't think my students would because he squawks like nothing else. But oh yeah, so we're talking about like what dream base here are we?
Yeah. How would you set it up?
Okay, so I actually see my desk at the back of the room
Okay,
and the board at
that's.
the front.
Have you seen that in an actual classroom? I don't think I've ever seen that.
I have seen it. And I see my, because I don't really ever sit down when I'm teaching. And besides doing the register, I actually find the students work best when I'm at the back of the classroom. So when I'm staying in the back of the classroom, they are all facing forward and doing their work.
Yep.
Than when
Okay.
I'm at the front of the classroom. So I would actually put my desk at the back of the classroom where I do the register. I would then have a clicker so I could click through, and do what I need to do with whiteboard. Because if it was a smart whiteboard, I'd be working on the whiteboard anyways. I wouldn't need
Yep.
my computer. But I would have a desk at the front where all of my paperwork, my handouts were, and things like that as well, like books and things like that. So, or off to the side so that
This is
all of my
escalated. So you've now two desks so far. Any more desks you want to throw in there, or just
no,
one at front, one
two
back?
desks or a desk and like a cube or something where I could keep all of my resources, like extra books, because if they
Yep.
go through their books, they can have extra books, things like that. Stationary, like just call it a stationary corner, because obviously stationary is very important to me. Where I keep my mini whiteboards. Actually, I would put mini
Oh,
whiteboards on bags at the
right.
end of the desk with board pens.
Definitely. I've seen this work really well. You get one bag per desk, per
Yeah.
group of table, say group of four or whatever, and then it comes out the bag, goes in the bag. You can quickly clear away the bags. You can quickly put the
Yep.
bags out, and it's neat and tidy and contained. And but I'd love to have it in a box that the bags go in, that they always go back in the same place, so that you've got a system, minimal friction. Yeah, so I like your idea of a stationary area, stationary cupboard, doesn't move anywhere. A
Yeah,
stationary
and there
cupboard.
there might be like boxes there for their books if that makes sense, or like their like assessment books, or that would be their folder. So if I say go get that, they know where that is. And I ideally would like a whiteboard on every wall because I would like to be able to use it so that I keep their focus.
I really like that. I think one thing I'm finding tricky in my current school is the orientation of the classroom is they're quite narrow classrooms. And they've got a very big screen at the front of each classroom and then a very narrow
Yeah.
whiteboard. So there's a tiny amount of whiteboard space in the room. And I quite like sometimes leaving up, say, a worked example, say you've modelled something, leaving it on the board whilst you can then display questions on the screen. So, or vice versa. So you've got two sort of display areas and potentially even another one to do some working on. And I'm finding that really tricky at the minute. I just haven't got the space. But I have visited a school where they had whiteboards all the way around the room, and you you're never going to run out of space there. So that was quite cool. So I quite like the idea of, yeah, not quite infinite, as you say, like loads of space. You could then, and if you were helping a pupil, you could use the big whiteboard, and others could see it too.
Absolutely. And I think I would like quite big windows because I would like my classroom to be really airy and plants in it as well. So they purify the air. There something about having something living in your classroom I think is really important because it shows that you can care for it. And I think it gives a feeling of growth in that room, a mindset of growth in that room because there's something living in the corner. And my tutor would then name my plant and we would name it for 5 years, and everybody would have a certain week that they'd have to water the plant.
I love it. But I think those sort of things really, I think there's something quite calming as well about having some plants in your room. I think that's a lovely idea. I did have on my list of things I was going to ask you was what plants or animals will you have? But I think I'm getting the idea it's plants, no animals.
I mean, can we be clear that it will be the only calm thing about my room is the plants in the corner. Everything else will probably be chaotic. But sure, let's talk about plants for 2 minutes. Um,
What about, would you have any kind of posters or decoration, or how would you, or are you really kind of the whiteboards and plants kind of vibe?
I would try and keep it quite clean, I think, but I would definitely have something motivational on the wall, on my door. I might have a quote of the week on the door as you walk in the room. I'm don't know if you noticed that, Francis. I'm quite a positive person who likes to
Spread
stimulate and
that.
inspire. I like to motivate people, so I would definitely have that. I saw that on teacher's room as a quote of the week on the door, and I absolutely loved it. And I
Yeah, I
thought it
do
was a
that.
clever idea.
Yeah, the, there's different ways of sort of showing a bit of your kind of personality, potentially even your kind of interests and aspirations, and so on, out and even outside school. I think just a few little subtle things that help people kind of connect with who you are, which would be quite fun. Or a few little things around the classroom just that help them see who you are, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think I'd probably have like an equation of the week or something, or like a something on the with like my year 11s. So like something we were focusing on in revision in classes, I'd have like an equation of the week. So just remember this. This is where we're going to be using this week. But I think on my walls would really be based about what the school requires to be on their walls. So I would want to be in line with my colleagues to show that we work together. But beyond that, I think I would like to be adding things that I felt like were relevant to my students, depending on their journeys. Possibly like a homework board where they know when homework is always due on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, or what we're going to be doing this week. So I would like to have some sort of routine where it might be like Puzzle Friday, mock exam question Friday, where they know on Friday we're coming in and we're doing that. So just to know where we're going, what topic's coming next, or where we are with our topics, so they know, so that they're coming in and going, right, okay, I know this week I'm doing this topic, great. And definitely something to do with my tutor group. Like
Yeah.
all of our school pictures on there, and even my school picture from America on there, whatever year we were, so that we kind of have a little corner just for us as well. So yeah, I think that'd be really important for me to have them there too. I have a very big classroom in my head. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
Talk to me about your room.
Well, I suppose this links to it. I split it up in a bit into the stuff you can't change. Like the stuff, the size of the windows, pretty much the size of the windows. You can't really change that. The stuff you can kind of influence, medium, longer term, you might be able to influence the way, getting better blinds, maybe a new desk. You can't just immediately change that yourself necessarily. And then I think there's stuff you can change. And I suppose for me, it's probably working out what what can I change? Okay, about the layout, about how I use the space. What can I influence? What might I want to, once I've been there a little bit of time, what kind of changes might I want in the kind of medium term? And then working with what you can't change. I think I've really noticed, we talked about this earlier, the temperature in the room, the airflow in the room, light. Like I've seen pupils get quite frustrated when they've been really hot because the sun's kind of beating down on their back. And I think that does make quite a difference. I think that whole sort of environment and just setting up an environment for learning, within the constraints of the room you've got in the building that's in. But I think making little things and just helping show that you care about the pupils and that you're able to, generally that environment, I think is pretty big. I'd love to have, I think something, as you say, sort of motivational, inspiring, I think would be really cool. I think, and so a few little things that help people think and maybe broaden their perspective a bit. I don't really want a classroom that's just full of maths sort of displays. I think something that's a little bit, maybe applications of maths, maybe a few pictures and things, but I think, that inspires them, makes them thinking more broadly would be quite cool. And then just access to pupils would be great. So I think making sure the desks are arranged in a way that you can get around and see and connect with every pupil in the room. Because I find it really tricky when you can't get to some bits of the room properly. It's always really awkward to kind of get around. So I think that would be a big thing for me, would be how do we lay it out in a way that works for us, you and the pupils learning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. I love how you split that up as well into kind of like negotiables, non-negotiables, because there's like you're right. There's some things because that's the classroom in terms of light. Does it naturally run like a hot room? Do you have whiteboards on a wall? Like those kind of things you either have or you don't have, and you can kind of maybe request them, but it's maybe not be on someone's highest priority list. But I love how you break that up, and it really feels like you're thinking about the students and their experience in your room.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky bit. It's your room, but it's their room, isn't it? Like think about the student experience in terms of, I've mentioned it before, but there's sort of friction, I think, in terms of routines. So if your routine is that they do their start, they do now on a whiteboard, a mini whiteboard, then let's make sure that it's really low friction, the point from them being at the door to being sat down with a mini whiteboard and a pen and something to wipe out their pen with. Like,
Yeah.
there needs to be that the path of least resistance must lead them to that. If the mini whiteboards are stored at the back of the room and they can't all get them, or if their books are stored in a box on a windowsill that's really hard to access, then you're just putting friction in the way of where you want them to go. So I think everything's got to be, there's a bit about sort of process and flow here, I think, from helping the pupils to ultimately to help you, to help their learning. Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about teaching in different classrooms, frustrating that it can be at points, is getting to see the way different classrooms have pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, like that flow. So yeah, I think there's a bit about it it's almost hard to describe. It's a bit of a feeling. How do you want it to feel for your pupils and for you? Like, what's the atmosphere you want to generate?
Definitely. And this actually reminds me of a great exercise that we did in my placement A. So every Friday morning we had this thing called Bullets, which was a 15-minute CPD session where one of the teachers would lead the session, and every year they use a book and everybody takes a chapter of a book. And you have to deliver CPD to the group depending on that chapter of that book. So you've read a whole book, but you're doing it through parts. I love it. It's like a book group for teachers. When I was in placement A, they were doing 60-second CPD. Have you heard of this book, 60-second CPD? It's 239 ideas for busy teachers. Yes, you love it.
I literally, after you mentioned this last week, I bought a copy to read on holiday next week because I like the idea.
So it's chapter 7, learning environments. He's going to flick through the page, just in case anybody's wondering if it's flicking through the page as we talk.
This is great.
So one of the tasks that we were asked to do was to consider our learning environment. And we had a really amazing opportunity to go to our rooms with a checklist that had all of the words on it, like damp, clean, spotless, inspiring, cluttered, accessible, secure, comfortable, messy, stuffy, child-focused, ever-changing, overstimulated, all of these words on there. And you'll see them in the book. Francis, do you have a page for me?
Page 190.
190.
This is awesome.
We were asked to go mark each word with a score of 0 to 5, 0 being doesn't describe my setting at all, and 5 being describes my setting perfectly. We were asked to go do a quick assessment of our room based on these words. And one of the teachers who I now consider a friend of mine did this really well, and I was so impressed with it because it really made me reflect on my learning environment. And obviously I did the little staff room because that was my room. But then we came back 2 weeks later, and she had analyzed all of our data and looked for the main points, and we were then tasked to go away and change one of those things. So look at something that described a room if it was negative, or something that didn't describe a room that we wanted to do, and then go make one change to that room to develop that. And it just was a really quick, easy way, which is the whole purpose of the book, to really think about our learning environments for our children, but also for us. We spend how many hours of our working life in a classroom?
Yeah.
In our classroom, is it the ideal place that we want to work? And it may not be size, but like you talking about those things you can change.
Yeah.
These are
definitely.
all things you can change. Is it child focused? Is it overstimulating? Those are things you can change about your classroom. And it was
definitely.
such a powerful exercise. And I'm going to tell you, I've talked about it because I told her at the time I was so impressed with this. This was such an inspiring and really powerful tool for me to do, this little CPD exercise that we did. It was amazing.
I think so. I like so much about that. I really love the idea of the CPD. I think the challenge sometimes for CPD feels like it's going to be a big thing, and we take lots of time to do it, and it's just it's a special day, and we go and do it, and then we come back and then just do what we did. Isn't it? This perception I sort of can see elements of. So I love the idea of just taking that micro CPD and then doing something and looking through this book. But I love the idea of just actually getting on and doing something, and I suppose seeing what changes, seeing if the changes have an impact, and then refining it from there.
Yeah, it was just such a powerful exercise, and I was really excited to share about today.
Yeah, I love the idea. I'm so excited about having a classroom.
I know.
Okay, so something we should do later this year when we get our own classrooms is we should post a few photos from the classroom and just some of those ideas we've talked about, and no doubt we'll kind of evolve a bit. Yeah, well, I almost want to now sketch out a classroom. Like a sort of
You kind
a
of
perfect
did,
design.
remember? Do you remember when we were at uni that one time when we were told to sketch what we thought a math teacher looked like?
Yes,
And
yes.
you then went a bit off piece
We could
and
post
sketched
that.
our whole classroom, which I loved because it had Taylor in it as well in a cage in the corner.
I don't know what the picture says about my view of maths teachers. We should probably check it before we before we send it out. But that was a fun exercise. I think we talked about that before, didn't we?
Are you cool that if we maybe spend some time today or tomorrow sketching what we kind of want our ideal classrooms to look like?
I would love to.
We
I
post it on
must admit.
our socials.
So yes, let's do it. Okay, I'll put it on the jobs list. I'm gonna
Put it on
sketch.
the job list, and I welcome anybody out there, PGCE, ECT,
Oh,
teacher,
experienced teacher. Yeah.
even, do you know what? Ofsted inspector. I would love to see what an Ofsted inspector's like dream classroom would be. That would be really interesting.
Well, yeah, and there must be some really good. So I love that. So we'll sketch a perfect classroom. We'd love to receive, and we can share anyone that anyone else would like to
Hmm.
share. That's a cool little project. We can do that definitely.
So I'm so excited for July to. Oh, are you starting to sketch it already?
This
Stop
was when we were
it.
talking earlier. I couldn't help. This is an awful sketch. I couldn't help but start. I'm a hideous doodler, as you know. Sorry.
No, do you know what? I know that when I get into my classroom, you're the first one I'm gonna FaceTime and like show you my classroom and be like, this is my classroom, by the way.
It's going to be awesome. It's going to be like a flipping jungle in there. It's going to be it's just like a sea of plants. It's going to
And then
be
Taylor in the corner.
so I just a few birds. I think we've got a bit of homework to do on our ideal classrooms, right?
I think so because I feel like this has been a really nice topic to talk about because it is, I'd say, a low level of frustration. Every PG student I've spoken to has talked about not really realizing how much this was cause dead time for them, but actually I think it makes me realize how I can be more effective when I have my own classroom, when the kids are moving and I'm not. So I think this has been a really nice conversation to then think about my space and how I can then sort that out so that I can almost get ready for the next class as the kids are moving around as well. But
Yeah,
it's a rite of passage.
it absolutely is, and I think yeah, you're right. You wouldn't want to go straight into. I think you get a lot of benefit from teaching in different spaces, and
I will never take the honor of having to be in one place in one classroom for everything ever for granted.
I'm going to remind you of that.
I will always be grateful and remember this time. But yes,
Definitely.
shall I introduce it?
Free because I feel lucky. I've got my answer ready to go. So you go for
Oh,
it. What was your idea?
of course you do. You little coffee fiend. So, plenary. What's one small thing schools could do to make moving classrooms easier for trainees? Francis, I feel like you have an answer ready. Would
Oh
you like to...
yeah, actually, I was thinking about this. So this is like a really small thing, but yeah, wasn't ideal. So in my last place in school, you could log into the computer in one room, and then in like the maths office, and then you could go into the classroom and you could log into that computer as well, and you could log in twice in two different places at once. So in this school, I was logged into the maths office and then I had to go and teach. So I went down to that classroom. The pupils were coming in, sending out mini-whiteboards from my bag. It was all good. And I started to log in, and then I realized that you can't log in more than one place at one time. So I was like, at the beginning of the lesson, weighing up, do I just do it without any slides? But I know they're there. I've done a whole lot of work on them. It'll definitely flow better with slides. Or do I have to leave the class I've just started, log off up in the maths office in a different building, and then run back down? So I think I found somehow got a hold of. I think I wrote some activities up on the board for them to do now, and said to the qualified teacher in the room, I said, "I'll be back in a moment. I'll explain later." And went away, logged off the computer in the maths office, and came down. But I think the qualified teachers at my school can log on to more than one, from what I've seen. So I think it's a little thing, and I get that the last thing you want is a student teacher who's logged on 5 computers, blocking them around the school. But that would have been amazing if I hadn't had to. And I think, yeah, I've been close to it a couple more times. So there's that. And I think clear desks, I remind me when I'm qualified, and if people are borrowing my room, to try and keep a little bit of my desk clear so that people can put stuff down and it won't disturb my things so much and won't be in their way. That's what I there's little differences that make a big impact. But go on, what about you? There must be some things that could help make your life a little bit easier.
Definitely. And I have something in my head, but I understand that sometimes space is restricted in schools. If I could give any advice to schools, having been a trainee, I would say it's have a dedicated space, quiet space where we can leave our bags, we can think, we can work in silence away from the staff room itself. Because as a teacher, you have a classroom. It might be used for break times, but you still have a desk that you can sit at where you can think through your lesson plans, especially as we're getting to 16 hours a week of, teaching. Really need that time to reflect on my learning, before I get my feedback, or have a quiet call with our PGCE mentor or attend a meeting. Those things without a quiet space. It doesn't need to be a room necessarily, but just this is where we're going to place our PG students, or this is your base, this is your place that you can leave your things that are safe, rather than me taking up a corner of my mentor's room. There might be a whiteboard in there that I can write my next plan, and I think those things are so crucial because we're just learning. And I think without that, I'm taking so much more stuff home because I don't have that right now. And I can really feel the detriment in terms of having to then come home, plan everything, because I'm in a very busy staff room trying to work that out. So I know it may not be ideal for a lot of schools, but if you have this is the safe space that we're going to put you guys, so that you have that space to have those meetings, have those calls. Because even when I need to have a call with the PGCE mentor, I'm having to scramble around to find a room to do that. Just that it comes a lot, being on PGCE, there comes a lot that you need to do in private, and you can't always be taking up your mentor's room or somebody else's room. You kind of almost feel like you're piggybacking on somebody. So yeah, I would say like a dedicated space, like a safe space for specifically for students, if they're going to take on students every term or not.
And I feel really lucky that I think both schools I've been in, there's been a sort of bit of a maths office that I've been able to work from, and has generally been quite quiet. But yeah, I would have found it really tricky if there hadn't been a kind of somewhere like that. You're right, you do need some space. Otherwise, you can't make the most of those points when you're not teaching to get work done.
Yeah, exactly. Like my current school, there is no math office. There's one staff room. All the teachers have their rooms, but then some of their rooms are open at lunchtime to students. And having been in school in my placement A, where there was a staff room, a math staff room that had a little desk that I almost like made it my office. It was so helpful because I just had quiet, where otherwise you're always being dragged left and right to do something. And I really, that was a question I asked my new school, because I value that quiet time so much more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for us, it's just making sure that 1, 2, 3 years down the line, we don't forget all these little things that we've kind of, you can see now and you remember now. But we can always come back and listen to this podcast, so that'd be ideal.
Yeah, it's in the public domain.
Awesome. Wow. Well, that has got me thinking. I've already started sketching, but I'm going to get back to you shortly with a proper plan of my new classroom.
Are you doing a plan, or are you doing like an elevation?
I think it'll probably be a series of sketches, maybe like a small booklet. Yeah, like a kind of brochure, I think.
Are you gonna pass it to your new school and be like, this is my requirements as a teacher?
Yeah, a little bit of CGI. I'm thinking some floor-to-ceiling windows. I really like the idea of like a chill-out area, like maybe just a sofa, like a kind of reading corner, but bigger, which is where the coffee machine will probably be based. And there's like chairs that like a kind of woven basket thing that hang from like a chain from the ceiling. I think it'd be pretty neat to have one of those somewhere as well. So I'm gonna quickly sketch this out and then probably send the brochure to my school. You're right, they definitely need this.
Sounds wonderful, with that coffee machine in the corner from all that coffee you need.
That's it. Yeah, I'll invite you everyone to get it set up. You can come sit on the sofa. We could record a podcast in my new office by the pop plant.
Love that. But this has been fun. I've really enjoyed this episode, actually. And we've definitely gone over time. Sorry about that, everyone.
Sorry.
We'll try and keep it to 30 minutes, but this has been a lot of fun. And next time we talk will be in the second week of half term.
It's even bigger than that. It's a proper holiday, And it's slightly longer with the bank holiday.
With my moving whilst you're reading a book somewhere relaxing.
So yeah, enjoy the house move. That is super exciting. Enjoy setting up your like home office, so you've got somewhere to get work done at home. And yeah, we'll look forward to catching up in a week and a half, couple of weeks time yeah, hearing how we've got on with our room plans.
Awesome. Looking forward to that, buddy. It's been a pleasure. Have a great week, everyone. And have a great Easter holidays, everybody, as well, because you teachers deserve it. Everybody deserves it because we know how stressful it is because we're doing it as well.
Enjoy the break. Really look forward to catching up. See you soon.
Bye, guys.
Thank you for listening to Fraction of a Teacher. If you've enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave us a review, and share it with your fellow teachers or friends. New episodes released every Thursday morning at 5 o'clock.
Follow us on Instagram or TikTok at Fraction of a Teacher Podcast for updates, behind the scenes fun, and more content. We would love for you to get in contact with us with your ideas, any questions you have, or things you'd like us to cover. So please email us at fractionoat@gmail.com or message us on social media. Until next time, keep smiling.
And keep solving those problems.